They were just not just building a new special operations force, they also had to rebuild trust, credibility, and even confidence. And over time, that's exactly what they did. Afghanistan and Iraq became MARSOC's proving grounds, and every deployment taught lessons. Selection improved, training improved, mission planning improved, intelligence capabilities were improved, relationships across all of SOCOM were improved. Both leadership and operators would mature. The organization started to develop its own culture, and eventually MARSOC became more than just this new experiment. It became a real special operations command with its own identity. And that identity became even stronger when the Marine Corps restored the Raider name. The Marine Raiders of World War II gave the organization a historical connection. It gave it a legacy, a tradition, a name to rally around, and that matters. Elite organizations, especially in the military, need more than just skills. They need culture. They need identity. They need a shared history. They need a reason for people to believe that they are a part of something bigger than just themselves. And over time, MARSOC stopped just being the new guy in SOCOM. They matured, they adapted, they learned. And today, the Marine Raiders are a very different organization than the one they were in 2006 and 2007. And today, they have experienced senior enlisted leaders and experienced officers who have now grown up within the MARSOC organization, doing operations as Raiders. And the MARSOC Raiders have even taken a number of pages out of the other assessments of throughout the entire military and have built a more modern and mature assessment and selection process. They have created their own more mature training pipeline, and they've even better integrated with the broader special operations community. And now they've developed real combat experience, and they have institutional knowledge that simply just didn't exist in the beginning. And that is truly how elite organizations are actually built, because they're not built overnight and not because somebody just puts on a different patch. Elite organizations are built through time, experience, failures, adaptation, and continuous improvement, because there's no such thing as an organization that's not going to have failures along the way. The difference between an organization that's successful is, what do they do when they encounter their failures? Do they adapt or do they fold? So when people talk about MARSOC's early struggles, they need to understand the context.
I spent years as a Tier 1 operator with ISA, and I had the privilege to work with some of the best conditioned human beings on the planet. I know what peak performance looks like, and I also know what it looks like when someone's running on empty and they're telling themselves that it's just stress. If you're watching this and your energy is down, your recovery is shot, and you feel like you're operating at half capacity, your testosterone is probably the reason. I know it was for me, because it's not your mindset, it's not your discipline, it's your biology. Human performance is veteran-owned and operated by other Tier 1 operators. They run blood work, they will build a protocol around you, and they actually know what they're doing because they've lived the same life as you. And I use them because I don't promote things I don't use. Because you're watching right now, you can get a discount of 20% off by using my discount code Viking. The link is below. Get the blood work done. If you're fine, then you'll know. If not, then you'll have a solution. Either way, you win. Discount code Viking. Do it today.
And the context is they were created late, and they were trying to copy one of the most complicated mission set, if not the most complicated mission set in all of special operations. And that organization of the Green Berets have been doing it since the 50s. They were trying to build that capacity inside a branch that historically has been conventional, standardized, and institutionally resistant to creating a separate special operations force culture. The Marines were not known for outside the box thinking when you were trying to create an organization that needed outside the box thinking. And then they had to staff that organizations with leaders who had not grown up inside of MARSOC itself, because no such leaders even existed yet. And to be honest, some of the leaders that they chose may have not been the right personalities to help usher in MARSOC. And then they had to deploy immediately. They had to learn in combat, on the fly. And one of the first major deployments became an international controversy. And that is a difficult birth for any organization. But the story does not end there. The story is not that MARSOC failed. The story is that MARSOC struggled. They learned, they matured, and they earned its place. And to me, that's the more important lesson. And every elite unit has its growing pains. Delta Force had its growing pains. Its first major operation was Operation Eagle Claw, which is one of the biggest failures in modern U.S. military history. But they adapted, they learned, they evolved. The Rangers evolved, SEAL Team 6 evolved, ISA evolved. MARSOC, unfortunately, had to do it later than everyone else. And while all the same time in the middle of the G1, fighting America's longest wars, and while that, the whole world was watching. So if we're going to tell the story of MARSOC honestly, we have to tell the whole story. The resistance, the late start, the Green Beret model, the cultural challenges, the leadership challenges, the Bakwa incident, the operational growing pains, and the maturing of an entire organization that helped them to become what they are today. The Marine Raiders are not defined only by their beginning. They are defined by how they have adapted after it, how they have taken the failures within their own organization and how they have used that to propel them into what they are today and what they will become eventually. And I think this is one of the greatest lessons that any of us can use in our life, because it's not our successes that will ultimately truly define us. It will be our failures, because that is where we learn the most. From those failures, how do we respond to when we get knocked down? How do we get up? How do we learn our lessons? And how do we continue on making ourselves better, stronger, and continuing on to build our character and building these entire organizations? Because the MARSOC Raiders are not defined only by their beginning. They're defined by how they adapted to after it. And that is what makes their story worth telling. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I think the story of the MARSOC Raiders, of how they started in controversy, they were put in this extremely difficult situation, and then they have adapted, and they have in a lot of ways succeeded and come out of that fire. They've risen from the ashes, is a great lesson for people in general, and it's a great lesson for life. Is we are going to go through life, and we're not really going to be defined by our successes. We're really going to be defined by our failures, because that is where we learn the most. That's where we grow the most. And that's one of the reasons why it's really important to tell this story, because we like to tell the stories of any great American drama or any great American ism, whether it's the miracle from on the ice in Lake Placid with the U.S. men's hockey team winning the gold against Russia during the Cold War. You can draw so many different parallels, and this is such a great lesson that we can translate and use into our life, and it's a very American thing. And I'm very proud that MARSOC has taken the controversies and they have then developed into the organization that they've become today. And I look forward to seeing them probably become one of the best special operations organizations in all of SOCOM.